Thank you very much for that. And it's great to be part of this year's event. And I know it's virtual, and I hope this is coming across okay. But wish we could be there, but not the case this time. Before I begin, I wanted to acknowledge a lot of my teammates and colleagues at the Department of Fish and Wildlife. The work I'm going to be presenting today is really the culmination of a lot of people, a lot of effort, and so I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge those folks. They know who they are. Some of them are on the call. So COVID-19, I mean, it changed the world. It changed the trajectory of everything. Nobody knew what was happening in early, almost 2 years ago to the date, early 2020. And as a result, people flocked to the outdoors. We talked about the COVID bump a lot in the last year and a half, 2 years. And it certainly was an experience for people or an opportunity for people to experience the outdoors and get away from the news and the uncertainty. And really, it was one of the few things that you could go do. The only trick to that was in Washington, we were shut down and we were following governor's mandates and had to close fishing and hunting in the spring of 2020. Fortunately, that was short-lived and we were able to reopen. And with that reopening, we saw a large surge in new anglers on the scene. Hunting seasons at that time were minimal. There was spring turkey that was delayed, and we had a spring bear hunt that was also delayed. But fishing, we have year-round opportunity, and we saw a giant jump in our fishing participation. Normally, we'll get about 210,000 new anglers each year. In 2020, we topped 254,000 new anglers. So that was pretty exciting. So again, to the purpose and goals of this, again, thank you to the RBFF for the opportunity to get this grant. We wanted to use this opportunity to really reach out to this new cohort of anglers and understand more about them so that we could drive further recruitment and reactivation, of course, in keeping them retained as well. So we're in the middle of a 2-year biennium. Our first year goal is to retain 29% of our COVID-19 cohort, which I'm happy to announce we were able to achieve that goal. And for the second year, which we're starting, we're looking to retain 16% of those folks. We typically retain about 14%, so we wanted to bump that up. The three strategies that I have to move my controller here. The three strategies that we're going to cover today are the survey that we use to engage with these new anglers, and then how we use custom audience targeting tools within Facebook, Instagram, and Google to place our ads and get our ads distributed, and then personalized email campaigns to follow up with our cohort of new anglers. So we're going to start diving into the survey. So at the early part of the year, in January of 2021, we surveyed our new anglers and wanted to really understand what that experience was like for them in 2020. Some of the key findings that we got out of that survey were obviously people were restricted on what they could do, and a lot of people flocked to the outdoors. We knew that was an impact. But other reasons that they were cited were spending time with friends and family and reducing stress and relaxing and connecting with outside and nature. They've primarily focused on trout, salmon, and bass as the species, as the top three species. And the thing that they enjoyed least, of course, is not catching any fish. We had a bunch of crowding situations that happened as a result of COVID, because with so many people flooding the waterways and access points and parks and places that people could fish, there were social distancing guidelines and requirements that were difficult to meet. So lack of access, crowding, bank access to waterways, and not knowing where to go, those things were all cited as issues. The things that they enjoyed most was being in the outdoors, around water and nature, catching fish, of course, when that happened, and then relaxing and just getting away from the COVID craziness. And really, new anglers in this cohort wanted to know things like where to fish, season dates, fishing rules and regulations were top of that list. In Washington, we have a ton of opportunity to fish. We have saltwater species, freshwater species, and really geographically, you can fish the ocean to high lakes in the mountains to lowland waterways and tributaries and rivers. So we have a diverse opportunity to fish in Washington, and with that opportunity and diversity comes complicated regulations. So we really wanted to help this cohort unravel that. So this data set became really the main impetus for our content strategy. We wanted to provide answers to those survey results. We wanted to give people information on where to fish, how to fish, what species were available regionally, and when those opportunities occurred throughout the year. And finally, to just understanding the rules and regulations around that. So one of the things that we did was kind of silently, or not really related to this particular effort, but it was in the works, is we launched a site called mywdfw.com. And this is what I call a consumer-facing site. And it was really leveraged, and we kind of stole the idea from the state of Oregon. Those guys are doing great work. Shout out to them. We have a lot of shared anglers across the Oregon-Washington border. And they launched that site a number of years ago as a way to disseminate recreational opportunity information. And we saw the success of that site. And because we have that crossover of audiences, we thought, well, let's do this something similar. Let's make a sister site, and we can make this site more lightweight. It's something that we publish to. It doesn't really have that government feel. It's more of a human-centered site, and it's really to provide that educational content geared toward beginners to help them navigate through this angling journey. So the other thing that we wanted to do in that is provide this aspirational approach to fishing. There's obviously, you can fish for trout and a lot of species from a dock or the shore, but what if you want to learn how to fish for salmon out in saltwater? So we wanted to make sure that we're comprehending that in our work and guiding people through a process of learning about the species, learning about the opportunities, and then having that educational content to support it. The next thing we looked at was really custom audience targeting. And these tools are available through Facebook / Instagram and Google. In Facebook, Instagram, what we're able to do is take our email list of this new cohort. And in Washington, we were talking emails in the last talk. They're automatically signed up to receive our marketing emails when they buy their license. And they have to opt out if they don't want to receive those emails. So we already had that sort of captive audience of folks who wanted to receive our emails. And we utilized the tools and algorithms within Google and Facebook to upload, or at least in Facebook, we uploaded the email addresses. And then we also did some custom targeting because of the ad spend that we were using. And this being a finite cohort of people, we were concerned about hitting them too many times with emails. So by expanding our audience, we were able to sort of dilute the number of people or a number of emails that were hitting their inboxes while growing the audience. One thing I'll point out too here is we have the MyWDFW site. We also have an agency blog site on Medium. And of course, we have our main government site, which also has some really great recreational information on it. So depending on what we were sending out and what we were trying to achieve, we would point people to a landing page that was most appropriate to give them the information they needed at that point in their journey. So in these two examples, you'll see mywdfw.com. I don't know if you can see that, but depending on where we're trying to get people to go, we would figure out where to put them in those call to actions. With Google, we did the same thing. We used the same criteria, although we don't upload email addresses. We use a lot of those same keywords for targeted messaging. One thing I would like to point out here too is that the survey data and the information and the words that our respondents used are words that we used. So here you see places to fish in Washington, learn trout fishing basics. So we're trying to give people and resonate with the words that we used from our survey data. Moving to personalized email campaigns. So we used this available customer data, the survey results, demographic trends, and we created targeted personalized email messaging. So each time email goes out, target audiences are segmented out and contain specific personalized messaging relevant to each audience. So some of this personalization may be imagery, the content, tone, and type based on our survey findings, or email frequency based on whether or not an email was opened, and that sort of thing. When you look at kind of putting these three components together, it's really important to understand who you're talking to, what are you talking about, what do you want them to do with that information? And another question that I kind of always try to ask in this case is, what's the benefit of this benefit? What are they really trying to understand? So if you can use this survey to really listen to the voice of your customer and the user groups and use the automation algorithms, et cetera, that are provided by these platforms, you can kind of manually adjust things with keywords and your personalized email to kind of turn up the fidelity on your audiences and understand how to best reach them with the information that's timely at the moment they need that information. So what does that look like? This digital continuity, I don't know, I just thought of this, I guess, or it's what came to mind. But I think of that journey, right? If you want to get people to do something in a digital landscape, you've got to have inspiration, education, and hopefully convert them in that funnel. So in a digital space, it's such a noisy place. You're competing with so much other information. So you always have to kind of think about that digital continuity and how do I move these people through this funnel? In this case, we had an email for Black Friday fishing. So there's a sense of urgency here. And this campaign idea, I guess, came around from REI a number of years back with their opt-in or opt-out campaign, which was to basically say, don't go shopping, go outside. Or I guess it was opt outside. And so we kind of leveraged that, as a lot of people have, to give people alternatives to entering crowded stores and get outside and do something fun. So here we'd say, skip the shopping and fish this Black Friday. Not only are we telling them to do that, but we're telling them why to do that. We have information on stocked trout, where those fish are, which counties, which lakes, what licenses needed, how to do it. This is a landing page from that on our MyDFW site. So when you read the blog, you end up on this page, which gives you an opportunity to buy your license once you have all that information. This being our landing page for a recreational login to buy the license. Looking at another example with a Google ad, surf perch fishing, for example, is a underutilized fishery on the coast. It's 12 to 15 foot fish limit, depending on species. That's a daily limit, and it's year round. So it's a really great opportunity to get new people who are already visiting the coast to take a trout rod and buy a license and go fishing. These are wonderful fish to eat. Any walleye fishermen out there in the audience, these fish are akin to walleye in terms of flavor and how they cook up, and they're just wonderful fish. And so we wanted to educate people, inspire people to try this and educate them. So we created a landing page on our site that literally steps you through the entire process of what to do, where to go, how to do it. This is a long page. I didn't show the whole page here because it would be tiny, but there's lots of images, lots of pictures and descriptions of how to do this, how to read the surf, where to cast. All of the information is in one-stop shop. And by the time you're done with this, you have the call to action to purchase your license. So again, it's that, inspire people to go based on the survey and the data that they've told us they wanted, give them the information, and then allow them to convert easily and buy their license. Another example with Bass Week. This is an annual event that was kind of inspired by Shark Week. And I think we're in our 5th or 6th year now. And it's pretty cool because it's a really lightweight kind of a photo contest and an awareness campaign around bass fishing. And we have this photo contest that seems to gain traction more and more every year. We get hundreds of entrants. And one of the things we do is we have a landing page. This, you'll notice, is on our main agency website. And so we've got a full landing page here, inspirational, aspirational imagery. And the other thing that happens here that I would just like to add is it talked a little bit about kind of the .com site being more humanized and less governmenty. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do through every opportunity that we have. So when these photo contest winners are announced, I usually go into the office. When I was in the office, I didn't have to go into the office, but now I have to go into the office, and I handwrite a congratulatory letter and hand address that letter and send that out to our winners with their prize as just another way to put a personal human touch on a government agency around a recreational opportunity. Thinking about new anglers and people new into this experience, the thought of dealing with government is kind of daunting. And so if you can show that there's a human behind that agency and somebody who cares and is excited for their opportunity and the experience they had, it's a small thing, but I think it goes a long way. Once again, there's a call to action here on how to buy the license, where to buy the license. So looking at our results, we retained 72,498 new anglers out of the original 254,201 anglers. So we were really happy with that. We achieved our goal. I will note that kids in the report, if you take a look at our full report, you'll see ages 0 to 15 and 70 plus in there. I know states do that differently. In Washington, 0 to 15 don't need a license. Some families purchase one anyway. And then in our 70 plus category, you do need a license, but you get that at a substantial discount. So key insights and lessons learned. We learned that 20 to 40, mostly 20 to 30, but into the 40s age bracket is the sweet spot for retention. We also saw a slight bump in that 60 to 70-year-old bracket. These are just bullet points, so they're not necessarily all related. But the second thing I would note is that identifying that audience and what their goals are and helping step them through those seasonal opportunities with species and the related skills, gear, and tactics they need to achieve those goals is really important. And always be thinking about the basic, intermediate, and advanced level steps through that. How are you going to guide them into that next sort of bracket? Again, aligning your audience motivation to success opportunities. With seasonal opportunities, you always want to give them that sense of urgency and remind them of their goals. One thing that we ran into, as I think most state agencies run into, is team capacity and resourcing realities. There's always something that comes up, and we had a challenging time at times, meeting all of our own deadlines and really trying to get this work done. So just a note on that. And then planning for the external factors that are unexpected. That could be wildfires and flooding. I know this last year, the news was full of environmental issues that were just ravaging the country. And so those things, not necessarily, you can't really plan for them, but also figure out what's your messaging going to be like? How are you going to talk to your customers during those times? It's really important. Internally, establishing expectations, really key, especially when you're going to be experimenting and pivoting. You might have to pivot your plans. We had a case with our razor clam seasons out on the coast where we were opened up again, but we found out that the local communities out there did not want people coming out to dig clams because for some reason there was a toilet paper shortage. I don't understand that, but there was concerns that people from out of town would show up in these small communities, buy out all the local groceries and toilet paper, and then leave, leaving the local communities sort of empty-handed. So we actually didn't open clam seasons because of some of the political pushback in those local communities, which was the right thing to do. But those pivots and those communication plans need to be thought through and considered. And then, of course, politics, we all know that. Depending on your governor, that sort of sets the tone for how your state is going to be run. And we had to roll with that and make sure to work with our public affairs team to really communicate well with the public. And then the timing of emails. Sometimes there's things that are going on that you can appear tone deaf very quickly if you're not sure what your agency is doing. So be very aware of the things that are going on with other species or habitats or closures before you send out some really, high energy email to go do this thing when you just pulled the carpet out from somebody on something else. So just be aware of that. And then this last bullet, I'll preface this a little bit. I think we've all seen a lot of the buzz around the censorship that's happening on some of these platforms. Facebook has been difficult for us to work with in some aspects. We have narrowed that down to the 13 to 17 year age bracket. So we haven't had any issues when we're 17 plus or 18 plus. It's that 13 to 17 where we've had to get into appeal processes with Facebook to let us run an ad, for example, that really has there's nothing in it that's bad. It's just, it doesn't meet their policy guidelines. And so it causes us a lot of churn internally to do that. Looking at next steps. So our goal remains to try to retain 16% of those folks here by the end of the year. We're going to continue to deep dive into our customer data and trend analysis, leverage best practices and resources. I know we're participating in the Southwick data dashboards and all of that. So we're staying on top of all of that latest and greatest resource opportunity. We're going to continue surveying our audiences to learn and inform our content strategies. That's just the nature of marketing, is to always be in the head of your customer and understand where their motivations lie, their fears and emotions. Because if you can tap into those emotions and figure out exactly what makes them feel good, that will help determine how to get them engaged and help them continue. We're going to continue to build out our mywdfw.com site. We launched this site when we got it pretty much close to feeling that it was going to start adding value to the public, but we're continually evolving it. We're adding more content. We're engaged in a broader effort to get more of our staff experts to contribute as well, just again, to build relevancy and to scale, because we can't just have a few people writing content for a website. We need more people, more opportunity to share that wealth and knowledge with the public. And then collaborate more with industry partners. We've started a couple of partnerships on a kind of a low level, but they've been very productive for us. We've put, for example, this lower image, the guy on the far right is one of our warm water fish biologist leads. We put him on a boat with another guy who runs Northwest Fishing Reports, and they filmed a bunch of bass fishing segments for Bass Week. And the guy on the right, I believe, is one of our local bass pros. So you got a biologist, a TV media guy, and a local bass pro all talking bass fishing, infusing the biology with the recreational opportunity, the conservation issues, and you're delivering it to an audience through a third-party channel. So it's not our department talking to the public and telling the public something. It's a conversation that they get to be part of through a different media channel. And I think that's really important for us to continue, and we'll be looking into doing that as well. The Mobile Fish Catch Center, we also received a grant for one of the mobile catch centers. And as of Saturday, I'm happy to announce we actually got that thing out for our first debut event. We had an opportunity on some steelhead fishing. We were able to get the trailer out on Saturday. We had over 80 participants there, veterans, kids, families, walk-ups, and we had a bunch of fish caught. It was a great event. It was a partnership with Puget Sound Anglers, which is a huge organization, influential organization out here in Washington. So I'm really happy to announce that we were able to get that done, and we're going to continue building out our plans for this year. I know I'm going fast and covering a lot, but I'm trying to be aware of the schedule. So parting thoughts, again, considering the entire digital journey that you're taking your customer on, really try to get in their shoes and understand what they need, when they need it, and how you can deliver the solution. And think about what your ad is saying, the words in your ad, where does it take them? What's that destination landing page look like? If that's a disjointed experience, for example, if you tell me about participating in an event or bass fishing, but you take me to the basic, like the highest level fishing page, now I got to dig around and find bass information. That's gonna cut people off. So think about that continuity. And the audience being at the center of the story. Again, we're government agencies. It's very kind of, I don't know, I come from a private sector, so I'm really hyper aware of this, but I don't want to talk to our customers or talk at them. I want to make it about them and how can I provide service to you as the customer. So we're thinking about our imagery, our copy. The content specialist we have on our team is from the newspaper industry. He does a phenomenal job at really setting the tone and voice for our content. And that's really important. Again, the emotion. Strive to capture the emotion of these opportunities and the experience with your imagery and your words. And then focus on user experience. Now that you have that first click, don't lose them. Keep them engaged. You can hire a designer or even just get online and leverage a lot of the best practices that are out there just to ensure that you have that seamless, successful conversion. And then finally, experiment, measure, and learn. People are fickle, things change. This pandemic was just crazy. We have all experienced just highs and lows and a lot of crazy in between. And so just being willing to break your current paradigm, think outside the box, try something new that somebody else talked about doing, or maybe you see something here today and tomorrow that's going to inspire you to try it. Do it. Just get it done. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Thank you very much. I hope this came across okay. It's very awkward presenting to a large room of people through my screen. So
thanks, Tom. You rocked it for sure. Does anyone have any questions here on site?
Hello, Tom. Eddie from Mass Fish and Wildlife. How are you? Sorry, that was a little bit loud at the live conference. I had a question about the survey data that you'd mentioned on the front end. You'd mentioned that the results indicated time with friends and family, reducing stress and relaxing and connecting with nature were the most common, as well as the top 3 species people were targeting. I was wondering if there was anything specific to women anglers that could have been teased out of the survey findings, or if it just might not have been as large of a sample size to do that sort of thing.
That's a great question, and to be perfectly honest with you, I wasn't part of a lot of the analysis on that. I know we have our full survey data and our full survey, and I'd be happy to take a look at that. I think I promised making that available with our report too, just as an aside. So happy to follow up with that.
Anyone else? Rachel, any virtual questions? Not yet? Okay. All right, Tom, I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much, and hope to be in person next time and a new story to tell. So thank you.